Hey everyone! Despite making some pretty great phones, LG has had a tough time competing with other brands lately. We can't know if it's their marketing strategy or product planning to blame, but despite that, as far as the LG G7 ThinQ is concerned, it has all the ingredients of a great smartphone. But will that be enough for people to buy it? I'm Andrew for GSM Arena, and this is our LG G7 ThinQ review. LG has really been pushing AI in their phones, but where that's great in a phone, it's not so great in the name. So as far as I'm concerned, I'll just refer to this device as the LG G7. Thank you. The LG G7 has a brilliant Moroccan blue paint job and it looks gorgeous. Design-wise, it has more in common with the V30 than the G6, and it's slim and comfortable to hold. However, the G7 has a few new quirks all its own. It has a notch, the cameras are vertically placed, and the fingerprint reader is no longer a power-on button. Instead, there's now a power button on the side. Under the volume buttons, you'll find another button, and when you press it, Google Assistant pops up. Yeah, I'm really surprised too. I was totally expecting a third-party assistant, like another Bixby or something. Thankfully, some things didn't change. The phone still has an IP68 rated protection and is military standard compliant, which means it should survive some rough handling. The LG G7 has a 6.1 IPS LCD with an awesome 1440 by 3120 resolution. Even the most demanding pixel peepers can't complain. Thanks to the notch, the phone sports a 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio, which means it's a bit longer than most phones. The notch doesn't cut into content when you're watching videos or playing games, but due to how these LCDs show black, it never completely disappears. That said, it has a great contrast ratio for a non-AMOLED panel, and with a max of 920 nits, brightness is awesome. You don't see that every day or even every year. However, color reproduction isn't particularly accurate when the screen is at default, since whites are slightly bluish and other colors are oversaturated. So for more accurate colors, slide the color temperature to warm. LG invests a lot into the audio side of their phones, so it's unsurprising that the G7 still has a headphone jack with a hi-fi DAC and clarity that's as good as it gets. The loudspeaker on the bottom also proved to have excellent loudness. This is due to a resonance chamber design which amplifies sound. However, it is a single speaker setup, and though the sound quality is good, it lacks a bit of bass and richness. Surprisingly for a modern flagship, the G7 also includes an FM radio, when you don't have data or are nearing the end of the month. Also, you'll have more than enough space for your music. The LG G7 comes with either 64 gigs of storage and 4 gigs of RAM, or 128 gigabytes of storage with 6 gigs of RAM. It also comes with a card slot that allows up to 512 gigabytes. The LG G7 has a Snapdragon 845 chipset, and despite having a very rich UI, it's well optimized and doesn't get bogged down. The phone doesn't heat up much either, so gaming and extended camera sessions should be a breeze. The LG G7 got an okay-ish 77-hour endurance rating in our proprietary battery life tests, but you'll get less if the always-on display is active. The G7 features Quick Charge 3.0, so you'll be able to charge 0 to 40% in half an hour. There's also wireless charging if that's what you prefer. The LG G7 features Android Oreo 8.0 with LG UX on top. Our phone came with a lot of pre-installed apps, but that's mainly because it's for the South Korean market. At first glance, everything looked insanely cluttered, but you can delete many of the apps. Of course, that's not to say that all the extras are useless. Apps-wise, it has features like an HD audio recorder, a smart doctor for cleaning your phone, and a file manager. It's also really easy to access general search on your device. You just need to swipe down anywhere on your home screen. With that, you'll not only find search, but also recently accessed documents, conversations, and apps. Like its predecessors, the G7 has a floating bar which is accessible from the edges of your screen no matter what app you use. The phone also has a smart bulletin where you can keep your schedule, contacts, or health data. Moving on to the cameras, you'll be pleased to hear that the phone sports a 16-megapixel double camera setup with a regular and ultra-wide angle lens. Cameras are also where the phone's AI capabilities are the most obvious. In daylight, images have excellent contrast and colors. The main camera has OIS, but detail is a little lacking due to overprocessing, even with the AI switched off. Dynamic range is great, and even without HDR, contrasty scenes don't present much of a challenge. Speaking of HDR, it's the first time that we see a real-time preview of the HDR effect in the viewfinder on an LG phone. The wide-angle camera comes without OIS or autofocus, but it's less necessary at this focal length. Pictures from the wide-angle camera are on par with regular ones, and there's less lens distortion than on the G6. In low light, the G7 is softer than we'd like due to heavy noise reduction. Wide-angle shots at night are not any better or worse. The super bright camera mode takes really bright photos at night by combining light from every 4 adjacent pixels. However, while exposure is good, the level of detail really takes a hit. Despite no telephoto camera, portrait mode is surprisingly good and subject separation works quite well. The phone also features a Google Lens shortcut directly in the camera app. It's useful for copying text like phone numbers or looking at book details by their covers. But as far as items go, well, it can tell that these are headphones, but it can't even tell you what company they're from, so that functionality is pretty limited for the time being. LG seems more geared towards video than pictures. This is especially obvious when you start exploring the camera app, which offers everything from shooting in log to scene of video styles. Point zoom also allows you to smoothly zoom in and out of a subject. However, you should explore where things are before going on a shooting adventure because the menu is organized in a pretty confusing way. 4K video offers plenty of detail, high dynamic range, and excellent contrast. Colors are a little on the warmer side, but they look lively. However, 4K only has OIS, and some electronic stabilization would be a welcome addition. 1080p videos are also really great, and they have the added benefit of EIS for less camera shake. Thanks to the 8-megapixel camera, selfies are way better than on the V30 and the G6, but considering their quality, that's not much of a compliment. Still, there's now plenty of detail and good colors and contrast. Dynamic range isn't bad, but there's also HDR for when backgrounds are really blown out. Selfie videos also offer plenty of detail and even have pretty good stabilization. However, the camera doesn't adjust for your face, and you can't change exposure settings, so be wary of bright backgrounds. The LG G7 has a lot of selling points, but things aren't entirely clear-cut. The phone has beautiful colors, but an unoriginal design. The screen is fantastic, but it can't hide the notch. In some ways, its cameras are great, in other ways, it's pretty weak in comparison to other flagships at its price point. The battery is big, but battery life isn't really that impressive. The speaker is super loud, but the sound quality isn't that amazing. Despite this, it has a good price, and is one of the few flagships to include a headphone jack, an FM radio, and expandable storage. Ultimately, it's a nice phone, and it deserves a recommendation, but before you buy it, you should be aware not only of its strengths, but also its weaknesses. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button down below, and subscribe and hit the bell icon to get our latest tech reviews as soon as they're out. See you next time.